Anchor line clear. New. Thoughtful. Hold on tight, because today we're talking about a phenomenon worthy of a science fiction movie, but one that is real and measurable. A G4-level solar storm alert. This is the cosmic equivalent of a black swan event that could bring our infrastructure to its knees. We'll go from the cosmic to the overheated NBA courts and finish with the huge television nostalgia comeback, that of a legendary host.
A black swan, or just a reminder that we live in an extremely volatile energy market. I like the idea of cosmic drama, but authenticity requires us to look at the concrete risks. Today we're going to talk about news that the G4NOOA alert that allowed the northern lights to be seen as far south as Utah, the Western Conference showdown between the Nuggets and the Kings, which shows the hierarchy in the NBA, and finally, the surprise return of Tom Bergeron to Dancing with the Stars. Let's get started.
So, essentially, we have news that prove everything is interconnected. The G4 solar flare storm. The sun emitted a massive belch of plasma hurtling straight toward us, triggering a G4-level geomagnetic storm alert. This signals that solar activity is at its maximum, and it's the first visible sign of enormous pressure on our terrestrial grid. The Sacramento NBA drop. The match between the Denver Nuggets and the Sacramento Kings reminded us who the boss is in the West. The highlights showed an offensive clinic led by the Joker, where Denver's performance dominated the Kings' energy. This is the signal that investing in a superstar always pays off. And the return of the TV Ballroom King. The Dancing with the Stars show celebrated a special anniversary marked by the return of former host Tom Bergeron as a guest judge. It wasn't just a moment of nostalgia, it also shines a spotlight on the value of soft power and authenticity in television.
These are news that, through different lenses, speak of volatility and value. The NOOA G4 alert is a rare signal, the fourth of its kind since 2019. The Nuggets-Kings game is a confirmed hierarchy in the NBA, and Bergeron's return is the call for investments in nostalgia and familiar faces.
We're going to dive into each of these topics to understand the implications. We start with the solar alert, which, believe it or not, could be the biggest threat to your portfolio this week.
Let's move on to what really interests us. Systemic risk. Market authenticity means evaluating the threat, not just the spectacle of auroras in Utah. The G4 alert is not a simple weather warning. The agency stated it. There is a risk of adverse impacts on critical infrastructure.
That's the shock. When we talk about critical infrastructure, we're talking about what keeps the market running, the voltage control systems of our power grids. Imagine a power surge hitting aging transformers across the continent. That is the ultimate loss of liquidity. And there, you can't just click refresh or restart the system. This is a threat of massive transaction delays or even a temporary shutdown.
My skepticism concerns preparation. Have power grid operators truly invested in protections against geomagnetically induced currents? Probably not enough. The cost of prevention is high, but the cost of failure is exponential. This is the famous financial bet. The solar cycle is at its maximum, and NOO is screaming at us that the risk is there.
This is the signal for investors to open their eyes to assets that can survive this type of disruption. It is an invitation to recalibrate risk. Don't ignore the sky, because it could very well be the determining factor of the next financial crisis.
Let's change gears to the court, where performances are more measurable. The match between the Nuggets and the Kings was a finance class in action. Safe investment versus aggressive but incomplete investment.
Exactly. The highlights showed it. On one side, you have the Kings, with De'Aaron Fox and the pure energy of guys like Malik Monk, who sink crazy shots and run in transition. On the other, you have the Nuggets, with the clinical efficiency of Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray. Jokic is the low-volatility investment fund. He's safe, he's everywhere, he's unstoppable. He scored 19 points in one half just through his basketball intelligence.
The authenticity here is that the Kings play more exciting basketball, but the Nuggets play to win. Jokic is an MVP for a reason. He represents deep value. The energy of the Kings roster is exhaustible over a season, but the mental and technical strength of the Joker is an annuity. This is the lesson for investors. Don't be blinded by the Kings' short-term hype. The Nuggets' sustained performance is the real dividend in the NBA.
The Nuggets are the safe haven assets of the league.
Finally, television, another volatile market. Tom Bergeron's return to Dancing with the Stars is a perfect case study on the valuation of authenticity and nostalgia in a time of media fatigue.
It's an emotional home run. The buzz around the episode was huge. When a legendary host returns after being sidelined, he brings with him enormous emotional capital. His return as a guest judge, even for a single show, legitimized the entire season 34. And then the production followed up with perfect scores, the return of former pros.
My skepticism concerns sustainability. Viewer authenticity is brief. It's an ephemeral audience spike. However, what this proves is the value of the familiar face. In a saturated streaming world, networks are desperately trying to create emotional anchor points. Bergeron's return is like buying back an iconic brand that was undervalued. He reminds the audience why they love the show in the first place.
For the media market, never underestimate the soft power of figures who have built audience trust. Human capital is the true hard currency, and seeing an MVP like Dylan Efron score a 40 out of 40 on the same stage, it merges the new school with the old school. It's a successful investment in continuity.
The market authenticity means evaluating the threat, not just the spectacle of auroras in Utah. The G4 alert is not a simple meteorological warning. When you really think about it, you can only stop and say, we thank God for every day when everything works smoothly. If this solar storm hadn't been perfectly oriented, or if it had been a G5 level, what would have been our solution? Our firewalls and our insurance don't cover that. Faced with the raw power of the sun, we are returned to our simple condition. Thank God.